welcome to R&B Reviews. I'm Rob, and today I'm going to be reviewing the Basketball Diaries, and my guest critic today is been a longtime viewer of our YouTube channel. He's a very good friend of ours, and his name is Jack Three Sucker, aka Andrew. So, Andrew, welcome to the channel.
Hey, thanks, Rob. Thanks for having me.
No problem. No problem. All right, before we start a review of the Basketball Diaries with Leonardo DiCaprio, why don't you go ahead and tell our viewers that are watching this a little bit about your channel?
What I do is I review movies, games, CDs, pretty much anything that's relevant in the media. So yeah, like movies, games, CDs, all that, and I do the occasional rant whenever I find something absolutely absurd.
Okay, awesome. All right, so let's go ahead and I'll start with what the movie's about. The Basketball Diaries came out in 1995. It stars Leonardo DiCaprio. It's based on a memoir by the poet and actor Jim Carroll about when he was growing up, and basically the story is Jim Carroll in the movie. He's teen, growing into an adulthood, and he becomes addicted to drugs. He experiences a lot of problems in his life. So, Andrew, let's start with you. What did you think of this movie?
In my opinion, I just thought it was a great movie, movie all around. I mean, I thought they did a really good job when he transitioned into getting addicted to heroin and all that. And it was just really good when he got addicted to heroin. But we talked before, and you said that you didn't think, you thought it got kind of boring in the beginning of the film, and then you got more interested in during the middle when he got addicted to drugs, and I rewatched it, and I can kind of agree with that as well.
Okay, yeah, I mean, the first half of the movie, like the first hour of it, I don't know, it's just, I kept asking myself, why should I care about this character? Because, I mean, he's going through a lot of problems in his life. Granted, like, one of his friends is in the hospital and all that, but why should I care? You know, I just felt like I wasn't involved, and then when I got to the second hour of the movie where he starts having drug-related problems, that's when I kind of got interested in this movie. For example, I thought that it was more focused. I thought it was more dramatic. I thought there was more tension here, and it was interesting to see how the character was affected by all this, and how some of the characters were changing around him, both positively and negatively. And there's some different interesting scenes. Like, for example, there's a very interesting scene where one of the drug addicts is comparing drugs to church and all that, but I definitely think the second half was much better, and I wish the first half of the movie had been a little bit more tightened.
I can totally agree with you, because when I first saw this movie, I was in 8th grade, and I was reading the Basketball Diaries, the book itself. I was reading it for school, and when I had found out that there was a movie in it with a bunch of big name actors, I had decided to see it like right away, and I noticed that they tried like really hard to try and capture the main parts of the movie from the book. And like you said before, you found that stuff that was in the 60s wouldn't have been incorporated into the 90s, which is where the movie took place, but the book did not. The book took place in the 60s. And after I rewatched it, I did notice some of the similarities that you were talking about.
Yeah, I mean, that was, now, I've never read the book by Jim Carroll, his memoir, but yeah, I mean, when I watched it, I understood the book itself took place in the 60s, but when I watched the movie, I noticed there were some, like you just said, there's some things that wouldn't have happened in the 90s, like, they're a little bit more, he goes to a Catholic school. He's more, the school is more stricter back then than it probably was in the 90s, because, I spent some time in a Catholic school, and in my town, the public school and the Catholic school share the same bus system, so I'm kind of familiar with how the schools were at that time in the 90s, and some of the stuff that they do in there would probably be more common to the 50s, maybe up to the early 60s, but in the 90s you couldn't get away with a lot of stuff like that, and there were some other things that I felt like they didn't do a good job, transferring into the 90s. I don't understand why they did that. I don't know if it's because they wanted to make it look up to date, or what, just to get people from the audience back then, 1995, more involved with this movie, or to go see it. But personally, I would have rather have seen this movie take place in the 60s, like how it happened.
I can completely agree with that. like I said, one thing that we didn't get to talk about was the ending of the movie. How did you feel about the ending?
I would rather have seen something. I would rather have seen him go through the rehabilitation himself, because I know right before that last scene he starts to go for it. I would honestly, if I was making a new version of this movie, I would maybe have like 20 minutes spent on before he became an addict, then have the middle of the movie be, you know, his various problems that he goes through, and then the ending, him going through a little bit of the rehabilitation. I would rather have, you know, seen a little bit of the aftermath. I felt like the ending was just too much of a summary. I would like to have seen it themselves, but of course, with the way that film was, you know, it would have been like a 3-hour movie.
That's one thing that they struggled with was because Jim Carroll, he himself wrote the script, and considering that the movie was made like almost 30 years after the book came out, I think. I'm not sure exactly when the book came out, but he just, I think what Jim Carroll himself wanted to do was he just wanted people to capture like the realism of what was actually happening, and he probably knew that if he were to make it exactly as it happened, it probably would have been a 3 or 4 hour movie, and people would have gotten bored, like you did during the beginning. And I mean, I can agree, but overall, I did find this just a really good drug film.
Yeah, I mean, there were some other good scenes. Like, there's some very good visuals to go along with how Jim is feeling about stuff. Like, take for example, there's a scene where he's trying heroin for the first time, and there's this shot of him running through a field like he's free and stuff. That's supposed to represent how he's feeling when he took it. Or another scene where he's about to go onto play a basketball game in school, and he's got some drugs in him. And during the basketball game, it's kind of slowish because that's how he's feeling. There's some very good visuals in this movie.
Oh yeah, definitely. When I was like 14, and I was sitting there like watching the movie, like I was just like, oh wow, like this is what being on heroin is actually like. Like they did do a really excellent job with the visuals, and one part of the movie that I particularly liked when it just his life just started spinning out of control, and he runs into people from his past life. He runs into the town prostitute, I think it's played by Juliette Lewis. Yeah, and he runs into her, and, you know, she's doing great, and he's just all around just feeling like absolute crap. And that's when he pretty much decides to try to turn his life around.
Yeah, now let's talk about the actress who's playing the mother. You kind of enjoyed her performance a little bit more than I did.
Well, yeah, because I had seen her in, she's from Sopranos fame. In The Sopranos, she played Tony Soprano, who is played by James Gandolfini. She played his therapist, and after like watching like all 6 seasons of that show, I mean, you grow to like love the acting and love the characters. And when I found out that she was in that movie, you know, I was just like, wow, they have like pretty much an all-star cast in this movie. And when I had seen her performance, she was decent. She was good. She's not a bad actress. I can't say that she's a bad actress. But I couldn't think of anybody else that could have done it.
Yeah, I guess I kind of agree with you, but here's my problem with her performance. She's too calm. Like she plays what's her? I forgot the actress name. Leanne Bracco, is that her name?
Yeah, Lorraine Bracco.
Lorraine Bracco. Okay, she plays Jim Carroll's mom in the film, and there's a lot of scenes where the two of them are arguing. Like there's a really big scene where she finds drugs in the apartment, and you know, he's saying F you to her and all this stuff, and there's no intensity. She's too calm. I've seen a lot of my friends and relatives who, like cousins and such, that have, that have constant fights with their moms and dads over stuff, and those would be more realistic than what I saw here. If this happened in my house, I would be going crazy, but I felt like she just handled that in some of her other scenes with him just a little bit too calm. You know, there was no intensity, there was no tension. The only time I really saw something like that is a later scene where he's coming back to the apartment and trying